Hello, everyone. Today we're Deal Talk, and we're talking about the Commercial Loan Broker Association. And we're happy to welcome into Deal Talk today Tammy Kemp with Baker Garrington. And so, Tammy, it's great to have you this morning with us.
Oh, absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me, Terry.
Well, I'm really thrilled to have you here with us today, and I want to make sure that everybody knows that for the 2025 Commercial Loan Brokers Association Conference and Exhibit, that you guys have joined us again this year as our co-hosts. So we're just thrilled and excited that Baker Garrington thinks enough of the CLBA and our brokers and, to be the co-host with us again this year for 2025. So we're really excited about that.
We are too. I was introduced to CLBA last year when we had the opportunity to co-sponsor, and we met such incredible people. I thought the conference was so well run. Learned a lot, and like I said, made some great new connections, new friends, and have managed to do some business between then and now. So it just made sense to come back, and we're so excited.
But it's always great when we do business, right?
Absolutely.
So speaking of business, why don't you take just a few minutes and tell us about Baker Garrington and the Garrington group of companies, and let us learn a little bit about those, and if we can right now.
Absolutely. So Baker Garrington is primarily focused on factoring. We are agnostic as to the industry, so we're happy to factor pretty much any industry other than healthcare. Unfortunately, we don't go there. But I've been in business for a number of years. We're very much a relationship factor. I think of ourselves, whether you're Baker Garrington or Garrington, as relationship lenders. So Bob Baker is the Baker in the Baker Garrington. He works incredibly hard. He has his son in the business now, so it's generational.
Right.
It's something we're really proud of, our long history and in the way that we do business, like I say, relationship wise. On the factoring side, Garrington, full service lender. So we'll do anything asset based, accounts receivable, inventory, equipment. We provide financing to other factoring companies and other asset based lending companies. If the deal fits, we'll look at bridge lending on real estate transactions. So.
Mm-hmm.
We think of ourselves as a one-stop shop for anybody looking for financing, and that's small to medium-sized business.
Right. Well, as I remember correctly, I think I'm right. Last year, I think it was Bob's son that actually found us, and had you guys take a look at us and say, hey, maybe we ought to take a look at this. So I like him a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, right now, our economy seems to really depend on, and I'm talking about in the commercial lending world, okay? It really seems to depend on who you ask, as to where we are and what's going on. So, I always have to ask. So not trying to put you out there on the spot, but talk briefly what you think the state of the industry is and how you guys play a key role. And I know you told us what you do, but I found it interesting then when you just said that you actually loan money to factoring companies. So you're kind of the warehouse line, behind that. So talk a little bit about where you see the industry at, and are you seeing any specific area where you're seeing any defaults in,
Well, sure, absolutely. It's turbulent times.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of volatility. There's a lot of uncertainty. We haven't seen the interest rate reductions or relief that I think that everybody was hoping for or looking for as quickly as we wanted.
Yeah.
Inflation is an issue, and I think it's going to continue to be. that puts a tremendous amount of pressure on the smaller business. The owner operator, trucking companies,
Hmm.
the smaller business owners, the space that we really excel in and provide financing in, right through to the smaller factoring companies. If you're not a big business, who needs 50 million or $100 million line of credit, it's tough times out there. And
Yeah.
I think the lending industry in that space is relatively fragmented. And so I think it's challenging, from a loan broker perspective, to try and find places to bring opportunities. And the loan
Hmm.
brokers are close to their clients. They're looking for creative solutions, and I think it's probably challenging to find the right place to land. And I think all of those things combined make it a really, um, you know opportunistic environment.
Right.
If you think about it that way, there's
Yeah.
volatility aside, rising rates, increased costs, supply chain issues, all of that, commerce is still going to happen. People still need to have items at the grocery store. There still need to be trucks that deliver those
Right.
items at the grocery store. So finding ways to continue to support, that group of companies is really important.
Yeah, I think what I see on our side, we're a direct lender as well. And what I see on our side is, and being a broker, we don't lend on big ticket items, but I'm seeing now, instead of somebody coming and looking for, the funds to build a $50 million hotel, they're actually building a $20 million hotel and scaling down. And that's what I say, is that because of interest rates, these companies have to right size what their debt structure looks like. But I like something you said there about the brokers, being close to their clients, and really trying to help. I think one of the things I'd like to discuss with you is, the climate that we see and you see as direct lenders, and what the importance of continuing education and networking opportunities, in associations, so that, like the Commercial Loan Broker Association, so that they're not out there on an island. I mean, I know there's one big group that went out of business, and we've had a lot of those brokers reach out to us and contact us and say, "Hey, we need something to be a part of a community, because we want to stay on top of things." And you know, the big reason that we got involved in the CLBA, my son and I, is that we would get so many calls from brokers that didn't understand what a bridge loan was, and the importance of it, and why we would structure it the way that we do. And we thought, man, if we could educate these guys and teach them what we're looking for, it would make our life so much easier, and we could close more deals because we could manage their expectations. What are your thoughts along that line too?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, bringing people together that are working in the same environment, in the same space. Yes, we're competitors. I mean,
Right.
I just came back from a conference in California, the International Factoring Association. We're
Right.
all competitors,
Right.
but we're there to learn. We're there to hear about what somebody else is doing in a tough situation. We're there to learn about legal changes to the people and the environment that we lend to. We're there to get educated on maybe changing legislation. Certainly, software that may be out there that can help us or aid us in our business. So
Right.
anytime you bring together friendly competitors, it's a collegial atmosphere, and you're really, learning the best from each other, right? And creating environments where you're bringing along that next generation or the new people to the industry, which I think is incredibly important, right? And you said it, Terry. How do we close more deals? How
Right.
do we bring success to the people who are bringing us the opportunity in our own company? And really, creating those building blocks and sharing it with each other, because it shouldn't be a big secret, and it's really a way for everybody to be more successful.
Yeah, I agree with you what you're saying there. I follow Moody's quite a bit, and I know you've probably heard me say it somewhere else, but back in this past December, Moody's said that the alternative lending space, and we're all a part of that, okay, was a $1 trillion industry. But the staggering thing that kind of opened my eyes, and I went, wow, this is perfect timing for us, was that they believe in 3 years, by 2028, we're going to be a $3 trillion industry. And so my belief is, for the CLBA and for us lenders, is that we've got to, how do you grow that, to $3 trillion in an industry, and we're all going to get, that piece of that growth. How do you manage that with the broker networks that we have now? Because they're going to be overwhelmed, and too many of them are not, well trained. And so I think that's a big part of, the CLBA and why we push. And I know you guys are big fans at Baker Garrington and the Garrington Group about education as well. And that's one of the things that makes our partnership and co-hosting together, I think, valuable. We spend a lot of time, Jeff and I do, on the phone with brokers that we're trying to educate and train about how to do a bridge loan, why it's important, how to sell it to their client, and then we teach them what we're looking for is, how do we get out of the bridge loan? How do we get to a permanent financing solution? And so we spend a lot of time doing that. And for us to get to $3 trillion, as an industry, we either have to have a massive influx of commercial loan brokers, or we got to do some better training with what we have to be able to get more volume out of them. And I know AI is doing a lot. I believe you guys are probably working on some AI stuff. We are as well. We're working on AI as an association, and something that we're going to roll out, in October, that I think is going to be pretty neat. But we're all working on AI, but AI is, in my belief, AI is never going to take the place of human hands. It may reduce the workload and be able to create more volume, out of the staffing that we have. But you're never, in my opinion, and Tammy, you jump in here, you're never going to get away from that physical hands that have to be involved in a commercial deal.
I hope not. I really do.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's humans. It's humans talking to humans, right?
Right.
Business owners are real human beings. Lenders
Right.
are real human beings.
Exactly.
And if you take that out of the equation, I don't know what it looks like. I see AI as a tool, and it's a way to add efficiency, scale, an individual or a small business. If you think of a loan broker as being that a way to scale their time and their ability to touch more people and look at more transactions or help more individuals, right? But at the end of the day, AI can't be the decision maker.
Right.
It can't be the person who picks up that telephone and hears what's going on in the business and thinks about what that business really needs to be successful. And I think, that is one of the takeaways I certainly had from last year's conference, was the conversations that were being had about how to ask the right question,
Right.
how to think about not what you want to deliver to that company, but what that company needs you to deliver. And then how do you go out and find the lender by asking more questions that
Right.
best fits the need? And the sooner and the closer we get to kind of that symbiotic relationship,
mm-hmm.
that power of AI and understanding and knowing the questions and knowing where to go, that's where the business accelerates.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and your feedback would be valuable here too. But we created a little 1 page, I think it may have grown to 1.5 pages now, of a questionnaire where we can send to a broker and say, just fill this out on your deal, and we can tell you right away, what we can and can't do, for you. And I think there's a lot of lenders out there now that are doing that and trying to really help the brokers become more, educated as it relates to their product. I'll ask you your opinion on this too. One of the mistakes I made early on as a broker, and I've been a broker for 12 years now, I tried to be everything to everybody, and I tried to make everybody believe that I was an expert at every lending, silo that commercial lending has. It's not possible. So I tell brokers now, find 3, maybe 4 at the most, things that you really want to be great at, and go be great at those things, and push off everything else to a good referral partner. What are your thoughts on that?
Couldn't agree with you more. One of the things I learned early on in my career is a fast no is better than a slow maybe,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Time kills deals,
it does. Yep.
right? If you don't know where to go, if you don't know that, if you're not listening on that conversation with that potential new client, and 3 people you can take that deal to the next day, then you need to find somebody to push it off to,
Right.
because that client needs your help. And honestly, that's a great referral opportunity,
Yes.
right? That's
Yeah.
an education opportunity, right? You let that person know, look, I can't help you, but I know somebody who can, and I'll connect you. And then the next time that same person hears about a friend or a colleague that needs help, and they remember the things that you do, they'll have them call you, as
Yeah.
opposed to taking them down a road that's painful and doesn't get them where they need to be.
Yeah.
That's no good.
And I know that you practice what you preach, because we sent you a deal. You said it's not a fit for us, but let me introduce you to these folks. And so now we're working with those folks. So I appreciate your transparency and your honesty there, on a deal. And I think there's a lot of us lenders out there. Like I actually had a hotel financing lender who told me that they don't do full service deals, but let me, full service hotel, but let me send you to a lender that does. And we're working with that. So there are a lot of lenders out there like you, like us, that when we can't do something, we want to say, but let me share a lender with you that can do it. And I think that's good for our industry. And if our brokers are paying attention, I think that will help them, because like you said, I always say this: deals are like Easter eggs. And if they sit out in the sun too long, they stink and they go bad, right? So, and I think some brokers are probably getting tired of me saying that. I did want to announce one other thing, and I know that we've had a couple meetings now, and I know the meeting we had Tuesday I wasn't able to attend, but you are a part of our Commercial Loan Broker Association Leadership Council, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time and being on that council, because I think you see from our perspective is that we really want that council to help us make positive change in our industry, and really, really stay focused on the CLBA being the driving force in pushing our industry towards education. And that's what we've tried to align that with. And I know we're talking about breakout sessions, for this coming event in October. I know we got some great stuff planned. We're even talking about a breakout session for the lenders. And I don't know everything that was discussed Tuesday, but I'm really passionate about that, because I feel like that's the one thing that we let our attendees down on last year. Is we had great breakout sessions for the brokers, but I'd like to have a breakout session for the lenders, where we have a state of lending panel for the lenders, to what we're seeing across all industries and all. And I think that's going to be, something that would be valuable, to our lenders that are there. So I just want to say thank you for the time that you're putting into that. And I think it's very important, for our industry. And I think it's important that we have a diverse board that comes from different lending silos, so that we can really keep pushing, the CLBA towards education, and getting a better trained, better qualified commercial loan broker out there. So, and I know that's important to you too.
It really is, Terry, and honestly, it was an honor to be asked, and an honor to serve. We talked a little bit about bringing on that next generation. You talked about your son. We've got
Right.
Brock that works directly with Bob. My son is involved at Garrington. I think it's important, right? I mean, bringing that next generation along. I see it as a real purpose. I see it as I call it an obligation, but
Mhm.
I'm here today because good people took the time to mentor me and
Yeah,
provide me with an opportunity. So, I think that that's, any organization is really stands up and is judged by the education that it provides its members,
right.
the quality of the people who are involved that deliver back to the organization. And I was my first meeting, to your point, was Tuesday. I was incredibly impressed with the group that you guys have put together, and excited by the
Yeah.
conversation. So a real honor. Thank you.
Yeah, well, we're really really excited that you're gonna be a part of that for us, and I think it's important, for us to stay focused on that and keep our team, the CLBA, focused on education and get your ideas and your thoughts, and then try to make them practical and what it works, what works. So, um, what about some final thoughts? Something that you might like to share with the brokers out there that are listening to the podcast and about 2025.
Absolutely. So again, I think we're in for a bit of a fun ride. It's pretty incredible so far.
Yeah.
I really believe that because there's so much change and so much uncertainty, that alternative lenders are going to be busier this year than we've ever been, and I think that the more we can talk about what we can bring to the table, again, that education piece for brokers, knowing what lenders do what.
Yes.
I think this is a year that we can really lever up and respond to what I see as increasing demand from that sort of small and medium sized enterprise businesses that are in challenge and turmoil and living through the volatility. I think they're probably the most impacted, right alongside of each of us at the grocery store, where we all kind of feel it these days.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today for Deal Talk. We're so thrilled to have Baker Garrington and the Garrington Group back as the co-host of the conference again this year. And I really look forward to seeing you down in Orlando on the 27th and 28th and 29th of October. And, for those of you that may not know about Baker Garrington and the Garrington Group, I would challenge you to go visit the garringtoncapital.com today, and learn more about their company. I think they can provide some solutions for you. And also, if you haven't signed up for the CLBA conference and Expo for this October, you need to check out the sign up at clbassociation.com. That's clbassociation.com. That way you can secure your early bird pricing. So we're really excited about this year's convention. We believe there's going to be over 500 folks in attendance this year. It could be even as closer to 600 from the traffic that we're seeing already. I can tell you that the sponsors, I think I saw something from Scotty DeBerdinis today that he's got like 12 booths left to sell out, and there's only 3 silver booths left, I believe is what he said. Maybe I got that number wrong, but it's filling up fast. So we're really, really excited. This time last year, we were in May, Tammy, and we'd been 2 months in, and I'm not sure how many people we had signed up. So we're ahead of the game, and we're excited to be ahead of the game, and really looking forward to seeing everybody down there. So I want to thank you again, Tammy, for being with us with the Baker Garrington and the Garrington Group. And ladies and gentlemen, this has been Deal Talk for the Commercial Loan Brokers Association. See you in Orlando.